Welcome back to Gene and Roger Talk Movies.
Here we are again.
We're talking the... Oh, I'm sorry, Gene. Go right ahead.
I'm interrupting, but I just have to say, what episode are we at? This is like 150?
No, it's like 133, 134.
133, 150. Oh.
You know, there's a couple of lost episodes that never got posted.
That's right. We did them and they just vanished. Probably for good reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, with 133 total, but on YouTube Live, where you can see us, is what we're up to 50 now or 40.
Oh, what the heck, Gene? I don't know why you give me these curveballs all the time when I haven't prepared.
Cranking out the content here.
Making
it happen.
I would not say that. I would not say that. We do one show a week. Most content creators that are really into it, because this is just a hobby for us.
Yeah,
Two guys. We like to schedule some guy time where we can just talk about a horror movie. But because most of these content creators are, one or two videos a day.
A day?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we don't have an Instagram channel.
No, we're not. And we're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
But today, Gene, we are talking about the 2001 Jeepers Creepers.
Justin Long, Jeepers Creepers.
It was actually requested by one of our viewers, so...
Here we go.
We're pretty stand-up guys, so we'll do this.
So if you request a movie, under the comments, we'll probably review it. Although next week we're thinking of doing Final Destination. It seems it's in the movie theaters now, the new one. And it's churning out decent box office returns, so we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
Although I'm a little scared. You watch the preview, and when you're watching the preview, you're thinking, oh, I've seen this before. But no, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, of course. It's going to be a good time. But today we are talking about Jeepers Creepers. Gene, where are you at with this one?
You look at the standard plot elements, exposition, rising action. There's a climax, falling action. There's a resolution. And sometimes, and this movie falls into this category, I feel, is that I think this movie nails the exposition and the rising action. I think at the beginning... The movie just flat out is great. Nita and I watch this together, my wife, and we're just enjoying it. The movie explains itself well. It's a brother and sister. They're going on a road trip. They talk about a tragic thing that happened to, was it some relatives or
some just random high school kids at some point?
Yeah, some people that they knew.
They didn't know. They knew of the story.
Yeah, they didn't know them because they would have been too young.
Yeah.
But they're going along the same road where this other couple met their demise, and they're talking about it, but a brother and sister having brother-sister interactions, and it's great. It's really good, even though a lot of the introduction, the exposition, rising action happens just in their car.
Mm-hmm.
It still works. But then this movie, it's got some fatal flaws. We can get
yes,
into that.
Does.
And overall, I would have to say I really don't like this movie. It commits some flaws, which we've seen before in horror movies, and this movie repeats these errors. And but yeah. Overall, I gotta say a no on this movie. Even though it starts off well, it's just it doesn't keep the motion going.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, it's me, so I'm gonna say recommend this movie. But Gene is absolutely right. The beginning part of this movie is great, and then really once they reveal what the creeper guy is, it's kind of not as good anymore.
Right. Yeah. So like my wife and I were talking about that. Is that I think you build tension in the movie, through the rising action. You're approaching the climax, and the movie reveals what the creature looks like, and it just looks like a guy in makeup,
Right.
And it just becomes, honestly, it just becomes silly. And this movie has the overall tone of the movie is a certain comedy kind of tone to it. But once they get the guy in the costume, it's kind of reminds me of the movie Smile. It's good for a while. And then at the end, right when it should be getting its at the best, you reach the climax. And then you see the smile creature, and it's just like, what in the world is this? Like I compared him to what's that singer's name? Manson. It looks like
Marilyn Manson.
It looks like Marilyn Manson with bad makeup. I mean, not to say anything about Marilyn Manson, whatever. You do your thing, do you? But
I saw Marilyn Manson live in concert.
See, there you go.
It was great.
Awesome, awesome. So nothing against you, but you know, I'm watching a horror movie and then all of a sudden I'm thinking Marilyn Manson. It's just like this movie would have been a lot better if they just kept some things secret and also explained some things like this. I guess there's this creature. He comes and he starts killing people every 23 years for 23 days. They don't explain that. There's this like psychic woman that you see and she knows all about Jeepers Creepers because when you hear the song Jeepers Creepers, that means the creature's actually coming. But you don't really explain her connection. Like, where's she from and what's her deal? And made me think for a second to the 1950s movie Forbidden Planet, you know, because there's Morbius in that movie. And through a device that they discover on the planet, he's able to create things with his mind, and Morbius creates the creature from his mind. So Morbius is the creature. So I was kind of thinking, oh, like if this movie had gone down that level, this movie would have been a whole different level. Like that innocent looking woman was the creature. But no.
Right.
So,
and I have significant problems with that particular character because that character to me is just shoehorned in to try to explain to the audience what's kind of going on here. Because she's the one that brings up the 23 days, you know, every 23 years. And she's just shoehorned in there. Oh, you know, I'm a psychic. I know all this stuff. I have these dreams, blah, blah, blah. You could have eliminated that character entirely.
Entirely, yeah.
You know, and then I also think there's this really off-putting scene that goes nowhere when Justin Long, who we remember from Barbarian, of course.
Yes.
He's and he's really young in this thing. He was probably
teenager,
you know, 20 maybe at the most. But him and his sister, so Justin Long has gone down this like vent, this pipe.
Corrugated metal pipe.
Discovered that this creeper guy is killing hundreds of people. And it's a great scene when he's down in this pipe. And kind of right after that scene, when he gets back to the car, that's when the movie starts kind of doing this.
Right.
But that sequence in there is great. But
it is.
Then they go to this diner. They're trying to find a phone. And they go to this diner, and everyone in this diner, and the diner is packed, which is surprising because they're trying to set up this whole desolate area.
Rural Florida, northern Florida.
And everyone is acting very, very strangely in this diner. And so I'm thinking, well, is everyone in on it with this creeper
that's
guy?
what I thought too. Everyone's in on the story.
You know, every 23 years for 23 days, we just have to give this creeper guy corpse or people to feed on. And because it's really weird how they interact there. Like, no one is acting normal. A cop comes in because they're trying to report it to the police.
Right.
He clearly is, like, not taking anything seriously. It's a weird sequence.
And the movie would have been better if they had gone off that angle. Because we've seen this in movies before. It's like the community is in on the story.
Right. Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah. Or the American Werewolf in London. The community knew the story, but they kept it to themselves, and they just kind of fed the creature like unsuspecting tourists.
Yeah.
And they would have been, that's why they didn't say anything, and that's why they acted weird, because these touristy teens, well, you know, we'll just feed
Who
them.
cares about them?
Yeah,
they're not part of our community.
They're creature.
But no,
creature meat.
None of that is there.
No, it just goes away.
And really, right when they get to that diner is when the movie just really kind of does what Gene is saying, where it loses everything that it had built up at the beginning, which is great. The music that's occurring when that big giant monster truck is trying to get them off the road is great.
Yeah,
There's a lot of good stuff going on early on, and then it just kind of spirals out of control and just is a monster movie at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I really like what you said, is that they go, Justin Long slides through the pipe and you knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
But then he has a little flashlight. And then this huge reveal inside this cavern, you know, and it's connected somehow to this church that's right adjacent to it. So he gets out of the deep cavern by going through these adjacent tunnels, you know, whatever. But then we don't ever go back there, and it's not ever mentioned again. It's like...
Well, it is mentioned again, because when the cops are following Justin Long and his sister back to that location, remember on the phone, the the radio. The cop gets the radio, and it's like, oh, hey, Sergeant, whoever, you might check out these kids because the church is now
the
on
church
fire.
is on fire, right?
And so it's like, to me, that was like a budget thing where we would love to show you this church on fire, but we're not going back
because
there
we burned it.
We don't have the money to burn it down.
Or they only built the exterior, you know.
Right.
But they could have gone back into the caverns, and because there was lots of like horrific equipment there and vials of strange-looking liquid.
Well, and just
You know,
Sistine Chapel of Corpses.
yes,
up
that's
there,
right. That's
you
a
know?
line from the movie, yeah,
You
which
know.
I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like we didn't go back there except in verbology, you know, talking about it, and it's like, yeah, the movie's it reaches a point and then just like it just like falls.
Yeah. Yeah, it just becomes kind of flat, and just we've seen this before, and it's not very interesting. And the creature
Right.
is kind of interesting because I did like how it shows up on top of this cop car out of the middle of
I
nowhere.
like that.
And then you learn later that it actually has wings.
Yeah, which was kind of silly. But yeah, it's just I didn't like the end of the movie either. There was no real resolution. It's just like the movie just kind of just in mid sentence just stop.
Well, I did kind of like, because this creature really likes it when you're afraid. And I liked the little dynamic at the end there where the sister is saying, take me. But because she was saying that to the creature, he's like, no, you're not really that afraid of me. You're purposely going to sacrifice yourself to
I'm
save
gonna
your
take
brother.
your brother.
So no, I'm taking your brother who's shivering like a little girl right here.
Right, and he
Yeah.
flies through the wall and he takes the little brother, and then you see him silhouetted in the moonlight flying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like some scene out of like Game of Thrones or something, you know, where the Daenerys is on top of the dragon's and she's on top, you know.
Yeah.
But in this case, the guy's underneath him, holding him.
Right. Yeah. He's like an eagle with a fish or something.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. He's not on top of the. Yeah.
But this movie has spawned multiple sequels, of course.
Yes. Yes.
And a new one, actually, just I think 2 years ago.
Yeah.
maybe,
Well, it was
Jeepers.
made for sequels. There was no
Yeah.
resolution. It just
Right.
stops.
Yeah. The big elephant in the room with this movie, though, is it's directed by Victor Salva, who, if you don't know, is a convicted sex offender. He was convicted and sent to jail for a couple years for sexually abusing a minor on the set of his film Clown House. And so this movie is obviously, this director is obviously controversial. This movie has been picketed because of the stuff that he did and was convicted of and admitted to. So
And he served time in jail.
he did. Just be aware of that. And it's interesting because Francis Ford Coppola's American
Yes.
Zoetrope Studio logo is on this movie. And so I did a little bit of research on that because it's like, wow, that seems weird for Francis Ford Coppola to want to affiliate himself with a known sex offender. And Francis Ford Coppola, there's a quote I found where he's like, well, he's a really amazing artist, and sometimes you just have to overlook what their personal life is because their art is so good. And I'm like, oh, man, what are you doing, guy?
Well,
What
this
are you
guy
doing?
hasn't reoffended, has he? Has he gone back to prison?
No,
do you
he
know?
hasn't,
There's
but,
on some
so-
level though, if somebody, you know, they're convicted and they do their penance for their crime, which is in our modern society is going to prison. Clearly, this guy did. Maybe we give him a second. We give him a
Right.
chance.
He's been
at
given
redemption.
And I agree with
So-
that. That's, he has clearly been given
He
that.
paid his debt to society.
And, well,
You to use that line, yeah.
the young boy that he
Right. So of course, there's a victim.
offended always activates kind of a protest group when one of his new movies comes out. So there's like
Right.
protesting
Right.
going
There's
on,
always a victim. Right.
you know. And so just anyway, I didn't want to get too deep into that, but that's the reality of this movie, as well as Jeepers Creepers 2 and 3, which he directed and wrote.
But the sequels extend beyond that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said there's a modern one.
Yeah, and then there's a new one. I think it's called Jeepers Creepers Reborn, which is not directed by Victor Salva.
Okay.
It doesn't have anything really to do with him. Whether that one's any good or not, I have no idea.
I don't think we'll review that one.
And so, yeah, I think this is probably the beginning and end of our Jeepers Creepers discussions, because I remember seeing the second one and it's like a bunch of kids on a bus or something, and it was really lame.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I don't think I saw the third one, but
you just got to stop. Yeah.
you know, maybe around episode 5080, when we've run out of horror movies, we'll come back and do Jeepers Creepers 2 and 3.
Yeah, exactly. Like 10 years from now, if we're both around, you know.
Right. Yeah, we'll see about that.
We'll
But
see. I try to keep myself a swim all the time. You know, try to do the right thing.
Well, and the one thing, just getting back to the movie for a minute, this also was an example of if you keep your budget under control, you're going to make a pretty decent profit. And so this
Right.
movie was, obviously, we've talked about it spawning sequels. Well, the one way you spawn sequels is the first one was a hit, and this one certainly made a decent amount of money, 50-some million off of $10 million budget or whatever.
Yeah. And if they had continued the pattern what they did in the exposition and the rising action, really all the action was happening kind of in the car. You know, it's like, what a way to keep your budget under control. You know, just limit your scenes. You know, just have great dialogue. You know, you reference great dialogue. You reference good things. You know, you keep things moving, which you can do with just limited scenes. You just have to be clever and smart about it.
Well, and it was the cinematographer, who I don't know who that was, but he did a good job because, you know, filming just two people in a really tight location can get boring unless the dialogue is really crisp, which I don't know how crisp the dialogue really was.
It works, though.
It did work. But just the way the film is framed, the camera moves a lot while they're in the car, so it'll start kind of at the side of the car and then it'll kind of come around and frame it. So they do a lot of stuff to keep it from being boring. And then, of course, the big giant creeper truck shows up and it's not boring at all right there.
Right.
You know, but
Yeah.
Gene, anything more about Jeepers Creepers?
I just have to mention one thing. Is that sometimes the little things can give a little clues that the movie's going in a bad direction. And all of a sudden this truck shows up and it's going, I mean, really fast. I mean, they're driving this 60s, you know, muscle car, really. Mm-hmm. And a car like that they're driving could easily reach speeds of 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. Easily. Piece of cake. And all of a sudden this truck comes up behind them, and this truck is just a piece of garbage.
Something out of Mad Max.
yeah, Mad Max. Yeah. And it's got some serious power, and it's moving really fast, which makes me think is like, how in the world can this thing go so fast? So just their choices, you know, vehicle-wise, maybe just kind of start to have my doubts in the back of my mind a little bit. So just to throw it out there, I think the details matter, and that was just the first clue that maybe this movie's not going in the right direction.
Well, the other thing about the car that the girl has, she doesn't seem to know how to shift it very well.
Yeah, that was another thing that's, it's like she doesn't know how to drive her own car. It's like, come on, it's just a cheap ploy. Yeah, it's just a scared little girl. She panics when the first bad thing happens, and she can't even drive her own car.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going there.
No, and they do it over
all
and over
the time. Right?
Yeah, it's like, come on now. It's just a manual transmission. It's not.
It's not that difficult. We've drone. I know how to drive a stick. It's a piece of cake. Although my car is automatic, though. I mean.
Yeah,
you gotta go out of your way to get a stick car these days.
It's hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a totally different topic.
So, anything more?
No, I think we're done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Gene is not recommending this. I am. You should give it a shot and see if, for nothing else, at least until Justin Long gets out of the cave in the basement. Once he gets out of the cave, it's maybe not as good, but the first part's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
Okay, so we're gonna do Final Destination Bloodlines next week.
It's in the movie theaters now. Okay, so.
And just so you know, Gene also mentioned, so one of the things I'm going to just say for a minute about Gene is this guy that wasn't really super into horror until we maybe started doing this podcast, but he had like these rules of things we weren't going to do. Just so you know, today
I'm loosening the rules, but I don't know if I want to review Cannibal Holocaust.
Today he mentioned Cannibal Holocaust.
You mentioned that they actually killed live animals.
Yes, they do.
there's a scene where they kill a turtle, but they're actually killing a
Yeah.
turtle, right? So no, that movie, I think just for that, I don't need to watch that.
But the fact is, it is running through his mind because he mentioned it today that, hey, maybe we should do Cannibal Holocaust.
And then I thought about, oh yeah, they killed real live animals.
So
in that.
we're getting him there,
No,
ladies and
that's not
gentlemen.
gonna happen.
We're getting him there. And remember,
Maybe watch that movie. Well, I cannot recommend that movie on any level.
You were
that
complaining.
They kill real animals.
I just love also the fact that Gene was complaining that Tourist Trap didn't have any nudity in it too. So we're getting him there, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's not that I was wanting it, but that movie, of all the movies out there, it should have been there because that movie fits all it clicks all the boxes for cheap horror. And the next box you click, oh, I'm seeing a bare breast.
Yeah.
But then they don't click that box.
Right. And Gene pointed that out. So that was
Yeah.
great. So
Yeah. It makes me think of Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's like click, 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 click. Oh, you got to reach the box, the bare breast. Oh, yeah, click. And there it is.
yeah, well, and that's about
Or,
as far as
that
you
dumb
made
movie,
it in that movie.
or that one movie, what was it called, where they were in Reanimator, which we both liked.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, was it clicking all the boxes for cheap horror? And the box, oh, the breast, oh, yeah, click.
Of course.
Yeah.
Very good. So we will see you. We will see you next week with Final Destination: Bloodlines.
Yeah,
Thanks
go to
for
the movie
tuning in.
theater, see it, and we'll write some comments.
I'm assuming most of our audience has already seen this. We're behind the curve on this one, I think.
Well, then when we review it, write some comments.
Yeah. So very good. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.
Bye.